What's up, everybody? Brett here, and it's another day and another news drop in the world of Total War Warhammer 3. This time it's going to be plagues, pestilence, boils, and bulbous buboes. The joy of playing Nurgle in campaign. So we're going to get a look already. They just dropped the trailer yesterday, and we're already getting a look at the campaign mechanics of Nurgle. I'm not sure when we're going to get Slanesh, but I imagine it's going to be pretty soon. I'm excited to see what's going on here. How do you interpret Nurgle? Lots of ways you could go with it. Let's see what they decided to do. Double bubble, toil and trouble, what marvelous creations will be pulled from the plague cauldron today? It's the Nurgle campaign mechanics, a delicious surprise for all, be they followers of Nurgle or as soon to be infected enemies. As the premier spreaders of joy, happiness, and disease in the Warhammer world, the laughing, bountiful forces of Nurgle are all about covering the campaign map in their sickness. All I can think of is the bad guy from Nightmare Before Christmas. Every time I look at these dudes. Oh, Windows security? Not interested, sir. Nurgle is also a god of decay, death, and rebirth, and that is fully represented in his glorious ways. Be it buildings, recruitment, or heroes, everything's just a little bit different for Grandfather Nurgle as you grow and conquer. On that note, in current world circumstances, we can understand a talk of horrific plague spreading is sensitive. Inside a video game, it's the fun of inciting chaos against the digital world, and we think you'll enjoy it. Indeed, indeed. As with our other demon factions, these are the mechanics for Nurgle as a race, while Kugath Plaguefather's specifics will be covered in his own post. Warhammer 3, much like the plagues of Nurgle, is still evolving and changing, so keep in mind that numbers could be different come launch day. Let's open this image in a new tab, because I have a feeling we'll be looking at it after I read this to understand what we're talking about a little bit better. Nurgle does not spread akin to a normal faction. There are no laborers building great monuments to their gods, no scribes researching their latest magical obsession, not even the gruesome fighting pits of Khornate bloodbath disguising itself as a town or city. Grandfather's people need not gather to worship nor prove themselves with acts of devotion. He runs through their blood, after all. No settlements infected by Nurgle are closer to growths that blight the landscape than real towns. Fields of rotting flowers, mushrooms, and creeping vines, and at the center of it all, a great tree pulsing with life, death, and infection. In this manner, Nurgle buildings are not upgraded. They grow, flourish, die, and are reborn. It's fascinating. Each building will evolve to its next phase over a number of turns, eventually withering and starting again from a base state. At each point, its effects will be different, and each new evolution will add units to the recruitment pool, which we'll come on to in a second. This is a cool idea. Say you choose a building slot to house a rancid aloe. After a few turns of building, it will complete and add a Forsaken of Nurgle unit to your pool. The secretions from the plant having been used to fuse metal and flesh in a manner pleasing to Grandfather. It will then begin to pollinate, and 4 turns later into the germination phase. This increases the income of building generates and adds another unit of Forsaken to your pool. Another 4 turns, another boost in income, and this time a spawn of Nurgle. This is true of all Nurgle buildings, be they for infrastructure or provide goods. Indeed, many do both, spewing Nurglings as a byproduct. I love that they're byproducts. Even as their primary purpose is to support the region by infecting the earth itself, increasing control. In addition, various buildings, technologies, plagues, and so on can decrease the time between each phase, making the production of units quicker. So yeah, let's actually open up both of these and see. Okay, it's a little hard to see. We've got carnivore. Okay, so it's showing us this is a very cool UI. I'm a little more impressed with this than I have been with some of the other UIs. Just the presentation of it as a circle is pretty interesting. And all the little designs that I know are kind of hard to see. It's not the clearest picture. But you can see here the growth. The timers will show you how long it takes before it goes from one to the next to the next to the next. There's still like a primary building here that I'm assuming you have to upgrade. And that is more stable of an upgrade perhaps. Or do they all stay at tier 3? I doubt that. I think the primary building, the settlement itself, you upgrade. And then it unlocks slots. And then the slots, as you purchase them, they rotate in the circular fashion, and you get access to some of this stuff. Though I wonder if units can still be locked based on the types of buildings that you have. So for instance, this is a big tree. There's a lot of units on this. Kind of hard to see what they are. But let's say there's some higher tier units at the very end of the life cycle. May they still be locked based on the fact that I may not have access to this building or, one of the other buildings, what have you. Curious how that will work. Let's read the next section and we'll look at this image as well, because you can see quite a bit here. We've got Kugat's unit card, probably a Great Unclean One or some sort of sorcerer perhaps. Some sort of cultist type character. I can't tell if I see anything that's like new. Everything looks pretty in line with what we've seen already. On that topic, Nurgle does not recruit units in the standard way. Rather than waiting several turns for a regiment to become ready to fight, groups of demons are summoned directly to an army, raring to go. Units hired this way do not start at full strength, replenishing over time. Another thing that can be buffed by various Nurglish skills and technologies. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. It's very thematic for the idea of demons being like summoned into the mortal plane. They can also be recruited in any neutral or friendly territory from a global pool, pulled from the Chaos Realm to help in the fight. There are caps on how many of each unit can be in the global pool, but as you approach the late game, you're going to be able to fill and refill armies at an alarming rate. I like that. That's also, once again, very thematic. It's almost like they're becoming infectious and you just can't keep them out. As you can imagine, this completely changes basically everything about how you build armies, make war, plan routes, and your priorities for settlements. You will have a lot more resources to spend, as you don't need to regularly upgrade buildings, but each new settlement will cost more to get some basic stuff going. Once your unit stockpile is gone, refilling it takes more time, but it can happen extremely quickly once you have a large number of settlements. Also, this is only half of the equation. Nice, we're getting into the next section. But I just want to look at this place here. Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle. And you can see, I mean, you're able to build up, it seems, a lot of units in like a storage, essentially. Oh, look here, you can kind of see the portrait of the Soul Grinder. The Nurgle variant of the Soul Grinder. That's got to be what that is. It's got like the mechanical feet. Very cool. And the two different variants. Man, they cost a lot of favor, huh? This must be from the global recruitment pool, perhaps? Very expensive. Okay. And then let's get to the next section here. Plagues and infections. Open that up in a new tab as well. Thank you very much. Oh, the artwork is so cool. It's like graffiti style. I don't know what else to call that. It's kind of cool. It's like old school like biker stuff. What's that dude's name? There's that famous artist who does the skull or whatever with the eyes popping out. I forget his name, but that's what it looks like to me. Let's see what they say in regards to plagues and infections. Central to Nurgle's campaign mechanics, and indeed his lore, purpose, and very existence, is the creation and spread of new plagues. His forces, their settlements, and lords are locusts of rot, spinning webs of flesh and disease that destroy and rebuild everything around them. Grandfather Nurgle and his many followers believe without a shadow of a doubt that they are bestowing glorious gifts upon the world, that their enemies will be happier and more beautiful with new life bubbling across their skin. You as the player get to create all that, and let it pass through your own armies, enemies, and settlements on both sides. The work begins in the Plague Cauldron, a new special screen only accessible to Nurgle players. Here, various plagues can be concocted out of the bases and symptoms you have unlocked. The broad rules are that negative effects will be applied to infected enemy settlements and armies, while positive ones will hit your own towns and forces. All plagues will give additional infections, explained in a moment, and Nurgle corruption every time they are spread to a new target, with one exception. Here are the 5 starter plagues. This is looking quite similar to perhaps Grom the Paunch's food mechanic and ingredients mechanic. The UI also looks quite similar. Pox. Decreases cycle time for friendly buildings, increases growth for friendly settlements. Bubos. Reduces casualty replenishment rate and increases attrition while under siege within enemy settlements. The Aug. Applies attrition to enemy armies and reduces their campaign movement range. I like that. Rot. Instead of giving infections wherever it is spread, adds a unit of Nurglings to your recruitment pool. And then Palsy reduces melee attack of enemy armies. That sounds like it could be quite strong as well. A plague consists of one of those bases and then up to 2 additional symptoms. Distributing it to the world can be done in 2 ways, directly or via plague cultists. Okay, so maybe a little use for your hero units. Doing it directly can only be done on friendly settlements and armies, but at a significantly reduced cost of infections. Infections are gathered from spreading plagues, post-battle events, dilemmas, and so on. Each additional symptom on a plague increases the cost by a certain amount. Plague cultists are new hero units that exist solely to spread the plague to neutral or enemy armies or settlements. They cost significantly more to create, but there is no stopping their infection once they reach their target. They sound similar to the plague monks. What are they called? The hero units for the Skaven who go into settlements and spread plague that way. I think that's pretty much what they're insinuating here. Yeah. Spreading the plague is exactly the same. Spreading the plague destroys the cultist, and only one plague may be infecting one particular thing at a time, be it cultist, army, or settlement. Naturally, friendly AI factions won't be delighted if you start spreading plagues throughout their territory. Once a plague is in the world, it has a chance to spread between settlements and armies that are in close proximity. Battles between armies will always spread the plague from one to the other. Spreading plagues with particular bases is how you unlock new symptoms, as well as through technologies. It would be cool if the AI enemy armies were spreading it to each other. That would be cool, but I don't see that happening very often. The chance for plagues to spread and how many turns they last is all improvable via various means. The intent is that at any time, you will have a variety of plagues spreading throughout the world, often far beyond your control or means. They may loop back to your own settlements and armies at surprising times, or be spreading through an entire enemy empire without you necessarily meaning it to. I love that. I hope that it works that way in practicality. Finally, once you have unlocked various symptoms, there are recipes. These are particularly powerful plagues such as Nurgle's Rot and the Black Plague that come with additional benefits to duration and chance to spread. Right, if the word plague hasn't lost all meaning to you due to overuse, let's continue. Let's open this up. So, Unholy Manifestations, Pestilent Growth, turns until available. What others take, the plague god gives back, for Grandfather is always generous. Can't move for 2 turns, but you get basically plus 20% replenishment. Very cool. Let's see how this is done. As with our other demon factions, Nurgle has access to the Unholy Manifestations and cult mechanics. Quick refresher, Unholy Manifestations are special actions unlocked by having a certain level of global corruption for your Chaos God, while cults are special building slots unlocked in other faction settlements by having high corruption there. 2 very cool mechanics that I think will be useful, not just like throwaway mechanics, as some sometimes are. Nurgle's Unholy Manifestations are Pestilent Growth, unlocked from the start, gives a 20% replenishment rate boost to an army for 2 turns while disabling their campaign movement. Blessing of Nurgle requires 1,000 global Nurgle corruption, increases the chance of plague spreading in the local province by 30% for 3 turns, also disables campaign movement. Exponential Growth requires 2,000 global Nurgle corruption, hard to say that fast, increases growth in the local province by 200 and decreases recruitment cost by 20% for target army for 3 turns. And then that's like when you absolutely have to, or maybe you just have a lot of corruption and you just want to grow, but that sounds pretty nice to me. Nurgle's Visitation requires 3,000 Nurgle corruption, and after 3 turns gives a random plague to every army and settlement in the same province as target army, disables campaign movement for the army while it charges. Imagine going to fight like Archaon, Kolek, Sigvald, and all those extra armies right when they spawn, popping this and giving them all some horrible plague and then beating the hell out of them. That was the first thing that came to mind for me. That would be pretty sweet. You'd be like Kogath, savior of the world, destroyer of the ever-chosen. Note that both growth and replenishment are particularly useful to Nurgle, as their main buildings are the only ones that require upgrades and control how far their other buildings go into their respective loops. That's exactly what I was postulating earlier, and appears to be correct. Naturally, replenishment helps newly recruited units get up to strength quickly. This could also reprioritize your Lord skill tree choices, for example. Also, all these manifestations are improved if Nurgle is in ascendancy in the Great Game. Can't wait to see how that really functions. Ascendancy is weighted based on the number of settlements, armies, and amount of favor gathered by all the factions dedicated to that god. It can still switch between any of the 4 when it changes, but the better you and your godly allies are doing, the more likely you are to be in ascendancy. Meanwhile, for the plague cults, the following buildings are available. Shelter gives them 25 infections per turn. Refuge gives 40 if growth in the region is at 200 or more. Hospice gives 40 if there's a lord present. And then Colony gives a random plague to the settlement but destroys the cult. It's of note for both of these that spreading corruption is easier and quicker for Nurgle factions over the other Chaos factions. That's cool too. Plagues naturally spread corruption, can be upgraded to spread more, and various characters and buildings have big boosts to spreading as well. This means quicker manifestation unlocks and more cults globally. Got another image here of their tech tree. Nurgle's tech tree has similarities with Khorne, brothers in destruction as they are, with several pods of 7 technologies each, requiring 4 to be researched to move on to the next. This gives you a lot of options on how you want to progress and what to unlock first, as well as how important moving on to the next pod is versus picking up a particularly useful tech. I will say, and I'll continue to say, this UI is quite bland, and I'm hoping this is not the final product. I don't mind the central areas here, it's just the rest of this is very basic. It'd be cool if it had at least maybe some art behind it that was fun to look at, or something. I don't know. That would be the easiest, most basic fix, but this is quite bland. As well as the normal unit upgrades, diplomacy, and such forth, several Nurgle techs improve plagues in various ways, including unlocking new symptoms. Ironically, similar to his major rival Tzeentch, there are also several techs that add spells to Great Unclean Ones, making them powerful casters as well as oozing piles of rot. That's pretty cool. Like, they start off as just, like basically like hell pit abominations, just big dudes punching things, and then slowly you can give them spells. That's very cool. I like that idea a lot. On the note of spells and magical abilities, Nurgle has access to various army abilities. These are unlocked through technology and are charged in battle based on how much damage your units are taking. Okay? Each also has the chain property, meaning that it will target a specific unit and then spread to nearby units rather than targeting an area. I love that! These are 2 really cool details. This can be powerful or a drawback depending on how you use it, but certainly fits the theme of contagious spreading through both armies in real time. Also of note is the big variation between research times depending on the strength of various techs. Moving between each pod could take a significantly different amount of time depending on which techs you go for. Experiment, such is the joy of Nurgle. And then lastly here, that's all the different ways to bring joy and bulbous happiness to the world of Nurgle. He feels almost completely different to play to the other races due to the total differences in settlements and recruitment, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it February 17th. I'm excited. So far, Nurgle is looking like the one that I'm the most excited to play as amongst the demon factions. He feels the most fantasy to me at the moment, until I see Slaanesh maybe. I'm not that big into what I've seen from Tzeentch. The little horrors and the flamers and stuff. I don't know. They don't do it for me. And then Khorne, as much as I love to kill, maim, burn everything in melee range, their coolest units, and perhaps maybe even their jankiest ones, are the motorcycle cannons, chariots. They're kind of weird. I don't know. I'm hoping to love it. I'm hoping to love all of them, really. But so far, everything I see from Nurgle just looks so cool and different. And I'm excited that they play so very different. I can see actually finishing a campaign with these guys, just wanting to spread plague to the rest of the world. And here you get a little bit of a glimpse at some of the techs. Granting line of sight when a plague is spread, that's pretty cool. We can only speculate at this point what these all are. But very, very cool. Guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Brett. Channel's Goodtalk Gaming. I have to imagine you guys are as pleased as I am. I don't know if I'm super blown away, but I am impressed by the creativity I think that they're trying to show in the different mechanics that we were able to see here. So it bodes well for the series as a whole that they're trying at every level to keep it consistent, but then think outside the box so that, you know, any new mechanics you experience are similar enough that you understand how they work, but also different enough that every campaign plays different. And I think Nurgle indeed will play differently. But yeah, like I said, guys, that's it. Take care. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Later, guys.